The next move in universal benefits was towards the family. Here's a Maori family arriving at the general store on the east coast. A really interesting extension of universal allowances, acknowledging the family, built partly out of solidarity, of feeling after the war, 1945, we were all in it together, we've all worked hard, also because of the difficulties of abating means testing for the family benefit. But again, it's interesting when the surge of wealth, because of family benefits, went into Maori communities, there is immediately a surge of disapproval, a desire to check, to supervise, to limit what Maori receive. What are they spending their money on? Sending money to the local store, so the storekeeper supervised the money, didn't allow them to go anywhere else. A lot of supervision and control. You have here something that unified the whole community. Social security is good for all of us, rich, middle class and poor. Families are expensive. You have here immediately qualms about Maori in the community. Here's a list the social security made up for what Maori were allowed to spend their money on. Concern over, there were no rules whatsoever for Pākehā families. One woman boasted in the paper, I bought a fur coat and false teeth with my family benefit. But with Maori, much more caution. No food for tangi, no soft drink and biscuits, odd spelling. Again, it's always been a qualm of people, the poor should not have sweets. And there was a big photo in the paper recently of a woman hauled up in Auckland with her supermarket trolley because she had biscuits in it on a special assistance. Another significant thing there was medicine because it had alcohol in it. So again, often qualms about Maori spending. At the same time, Social Security did an analysis of the East Coast because people thought Maori benefits was supplanting the desire to work, and found that where there were jobs, meatworks, farming, shearing, Maori worked. If there were no jobs, they didn't work. We have the 50s, 60s, very wealthy years for New Zealand, full employment, as we heard this afternoon. The Minister of Social Welfare knew everyone on the unemployment benefit, in fact sent the 12 people a card for Christmas, there were so few of them. And then we have the 70s, radical changes. The first radical change, more respectable change, innovation of the 70s, is the 1977 universal benefit at the age of 60 Muldoon scheme for the elderly. He understood that the elderly hated means tests. It was soon found to be unsustainable. It doubled in 4 years. The department thought it the worst mistake ever. Australians thought we were mad. You know, a very generous universal benefit for the aged. And at a very similar time, the most provocative benefit in the history of Social Security, a benefit for sole mothers. It could be worded as a benefit for, provide for fathers who leave, perhaps, but it's always concentration, focus on sole mothers. Department had resisted this for years, had a Roman Catholic head of the department, and you all know from today the amount of stress and divisiveness this has caused in the community. Department tried marriage guidance, it tried inspecting bedrooms. You have here Keep Walker, that's the Minister of Social Welfare, out of our bedrooms, privacy gone. And numbers growing on the sole benefit, partly because we have a much more sexually liberal society, partly because as work gets harder to get, that affects sole parents as well, and we sometimes forget that. The sole parent benefit and the numbers who can work is closely related to how many jobs are available. Again, a child in a family that is not able to get a supplement to the family benefit because she's a beneficiary child, that sense again of division within the community between, it's very hard to serve all families, families who are working families, families who are sole parents, and protests about that. In 1980, first sign of major unemployment. This is the closure of the Southdown Meatworks, 1980, this young man receiving his last pay packet. The kind of beginning of the end of really full employment for New Zealand, a deregulated society. that we've entered. A revolution that's gone right round the regions. This is the Opatiki Safety Shoe Company a few years later. Prospects of work diminishing, the last day of his work. And we need to be realistic about the fact that we've allowed imports to come into the country. We've slashed our manufacturing base. Crownland gone, Bendon gone. Should we thank these beneficiaries? Are we looking at the behaviour of beneficiaries or the behaviour of the marketplace? Should we thank these beneficiaries who have worked 8 years and then lose their job for going without jobs so we can buy cheap shoes at the warehouse? There is no hatred like, there's no hell like a woman scorned. There is no hell like the middle classes when they lose their benefits. Older people, articulate when surcharge came in, very sure of their rights, far more sure of their rights when there's a surcharge on superannuation and attempts to limit it in the 1980s than families. I think it's very interesting that families haven't stuck up more for their rights, partly why I asked what was happening in Australia today. Far more support for families, I think, than in New Zealand. But the elderly have been a very powerful lobby group, a huge lobby group, and they have been advantaged and given priority in the social security system. We can't leave them out of the mix when they're talking about long-term dependency. Are the aged vulnerable, or are they as up for blame as everyone else? We never look at their sexual behaviour, their drinking, their crime, there's no reason why old people are not as immoral, as drunken, as gambling and feckless as anyone else. But they are respectable. We presume it. We're in a harsh environment today. My last picture has become an iconic image in Auckland, much discussed on the front page of the Herald, January 2010. 2,500 people queuing for 180 jobs at the supermarket. Same story in Pukekohe and just last week in Dunedin. That's 1 out of 18 will get a job. These people are fit and well. What about the invalids? What about the sick? What about the sole parents? What chance do they have? They're the ones where government would like to get off the benefits today, but they are competing with a lot of people in a difficult marketplace. Quick look, you might like to ask me, my time's up, about these later. We have to remember that issues are complex. We have this society with many people arguing for their rights. The problems have always been persistent. Do we target, or do we give a general sense that we all belong through a universal system? Don't idealise the past, I feel most strongly about. It has been a bitter, tough place, the past. Charity is not enough. The churches are not contracted to provide a system for the poor. Don't look to the United States for solutions, and our rhetoric very much dominated our thinking in the 80s, 90s. Still today, if we need to look anywhere, I would look to Australia. And there, but for the grace of God, go I. None of us are immune to change.